Let's see if that's any better and if that's working. Damn, what a mess. Telling you, my stream has been absolutely freaking crazy lately. All right. That looks like it did the trick. So let me fix a few more things. Okay, we're good. So the first thing we're going to do today, and I apologize about the whole mix-up. It's something's going on. It's Windows 11 or something. I've never had these kinds of problems before, and it's just been a fucking nightmare. I'm telling you, it's crazy. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to jump into our Inner Sanctum, and we're going to go over a little bit of information. So far, what we've worked on with Inner Sanctum is we've talked about what it is. We've talked about the rules. We showed you how to create an entire account and go through the whole process of getting set up and starting to write on this site. Another frickin' detection rate of frame rate drops. What in the hell? Lower your bit rate, change your ingress, check the health of your internet connection. It's probably my internet connection. God damn. I've never had this problem before. I have like a 1 gigabyte connection, so I don't know what the hell's going on. All right, anyway. Hopefully it doesn't get too bad. So, this time we're going to work on request threads. Let me bring that up now. Right? Okay. So let me minimize this. This little thing over here is supposed to be the chat relay that sends it to everybody. All right. So if you guys type in YouTube or Twitch, I should be able to see it now. On this screen, I'm already logged in. We're going to go through how the request thread works and what's involved. As somebody that has recently made a whole bunch of requests, and I got rejected more than a few times, you know, I thought it was something important that we could go over and explain how some of that stuff works. So let's go down. After you've logged in, and if you don't remember how to make an account, check the last video. Go down to role play request and click on this tab here. This is going to bring up the different sections that are available. And before we click on any of these sections, we're going to explain a little bit. They're pretty self-explanatory, but it appears that people are still getting this a little confused. Where should you be posting, and what do these sections actually mean? All right. So, to put it simply, if you're a guy seeking an adventure, then men seeking adventure is probably where you should write. If your adventure could have adult content or erotica or something of that nature, then men seeking adventure is where you should write. If you're a female and you're seeking someone to write with, then with the same, you know, the same barriers there, you seeking erotica or you want to write romance or something along those lines, then women seeking companions is where you would want to write. If you are ungendered and don't really classify and instead choose to go by they, them, and so on, then assistance needed, gender unspecified is probably where you want to write. This just kind of narrows down, you know, who you are comfortable writing with without really stepping into any OOC and saying, you know, I'm only comfortable writing with men, and I'm really not comfortable writing with women. So I would go to men seeking adventure rather than women seeking companions. It's just a very quick overview of what you're looking for. Then there is seeking non-sexual stories. Now this is you'll notice that the amount of threads here is quite low. That's because this is a new section, right? And this basically says that you want no erotica of any kind inside your story. You have fade to blacks, you have fantasy based and so on, but the story is not focused on romance or erotica or anything like that. The next section is seeking larger groups. Now, when they say larger groups, they mean 3, 4, 5, 6 people, D&D groups, things like that, right? And this is where you would create that kind of a post, or you would look for people that are creating those kinds of posts. The last section here, which is called Orphan Stories Seeking Adoption, this is one of those areas that just kind of needs to be, right? So if you have a story that you enjoy, but it ends, maybe the co-author had to leave or they're no longer interested in writing the story, but you are, you can put the link of your story in here and hope that some other author steps in and continues the story, right? Where you would, that's pretty much what this is. It's an already active story that has gone inactive and you want to continue it. So you would create your section here. All right. The next thing we're going to get into now that we've passed on meanings is we're going to go to reviewing this section right here, which is what makes a good request thread, right? And in this section, you can see a lot of details by one of the admins here who took the time to explain what should be inside your request thread. What should be there that will help you find a co-author to write with. Because if they just go in there and see a paragraph that says, I want to write a story, you're probably not going to get many people that are interested in writing with you. All right, so details, obviously, right? You want to give as much information as needed about what you're looking for, right? As he says here, some people will spend hours writing this section. Other people spend a few minutes. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Next is ideas, right? If you want a role play and you are making a request thread, but you have no plots or genre for your general direction, nobody knows what it is that you want to write. So in this respect, the ideas is basically saying you need to give some plots, right? You need to explain, hey, I'm interested in this and I want to do this and I'm looking for a co-author that can help me make this happen, right? That's where your ideas come from. The next is readability, right? And one of the biggest problems that you'll find is that people use their phone to write and then they use text to speech instead of typing it out themselves. And as you guys know, anybody that uses a cell phone, text to speech is notorious for figuring out its own language and deciding to add words that just don't make any damn sense in there, right? Also, try to use some proper grammar. Don't write, like he says here, don't write one massive paragraph without spaces or breaks or anything like that, because it's daunting to look at, right? If you just look at a wall of text, it's hard on the eyes. It's difficult to read, right? Font colors, headings, and stuff like that can also make it kind of hard to read depending on the theme that they're using, and then sizes and stuff like that. So make it unique. We'll go over some request threads and I'll show you some examples. The next is length, right? Let people know how much you tend to write. For example, I write anywhere from 1,000 words to 3,000 words per reply, okay? So this definitely puts me outside the genre of about 90% of people on this site, right? It definitely puts me outside that that spectrum. The other thing it does is it immediately tells people that I'm probably not role playing. I'm probably co-writing a story, right? There's just too much depth and too much detail in what I write for this to be considered general role play. The other thing is maybe you don't write like me and you only write 1 or 2 lines and stuff like that. You need to let somebody know I'm only going to reply with about 3 lines of text before I send it. And you know, no one's here to judge you. You're just stating your preferences because you don't want somebody like me writing 3,000 words while you turn around and write down, you know, a couple of hundred. It's fine. Some people don't mind. I don't mind personally, but other people do get frustrated pretty damn quickly, right? The next thing that you want to do is state, do you want your story? How much story and how much smut do you want in your book or in your story? Now, this is important. And even as an author writing solo, this is something that you need to seriously address. I know I just finished my Nano project, and this was one of the questions that I had to ask the groups, right? How much erotica should be in the story, right? I don't want the story to become a harlequin, but at the same time, I don't want it to become dry and dull, right? So this is very important. Typically, I sit around 80% story, 30 to 20% erotica. So I want the majority of what I write to be story driven. There could be moments of passion, but I would just as easily fade to black if these moments became repetitive, right? Let's say that the protagonist and the co-author's protagonist formed a relationship in the story and they were making love every single night. I don't want to write that. Does anybody? I mean, do you really want to write day after day after day of the same damn actions over and over again? Sure, it's okay. Some people prefer that, but I don't, right? I would just like to say, assume that they're doing this for the rest of the week or whatever, right? I don't want to continuously write nothing but erotica because that's Harlequin, and I'm not interested in that. So you need to make it clear what you want and how much of it you want in your stories. The next thing is limits. I cannot express this enough. People need to pay attention to the limits written down on stories. Let's say that you're writing a fantasy story, but you're not interested in gore in this fantasy, right? You don't want blood and guts. You don't mind a little blood, but you're not looking for decapitations with detailed descriptions of spinal cords being ripped out of the back, right? You just want a simple Lord of the Rings concept here. Stabs him in the chest, pulls out his bloody sword, body falls to the ground, done, right? You don't want extreme depth and gore. That's a limit, and you need to write that down, okay? These limits are not just talking about erotica, right? I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. These limits are talking about everything from your violence to the bulk of your writing to everything, right? Let's say that you don't want to write with somebody that writes 3K on an average reply, right? And there's a lot of people that just won't do it. I know. I've put in a lot of requests and I was refused a shit ton, okay? That's a limit, and you need to write that down. I do not want to write with people that do bulk writing, right? That's a limit. So limits are very important, and you need to clearly make sure that people understand what you are and are not willing to deal with before you start writing with them, because this is about co-written stories. And if you two are not seeing eye to eye, then you're going to be forced into a situation that you just don't like. All right. Next is, what can you tolerate from your partner? So this kind of falls back into limits, but one of the most typical things that you'll see here is grammar and spelling, right? People just can't handle it. Now, there are grammar lawyers out there. I was going to say something else, but I won't. That are all about grammar, right? If you don't have a comma, if you don't have this, if you don't have this, I'm not going to write with you. There are other people that are just light on grammar, right? Like, don't give me a run-on sentence, use periods, stuff like that. The same thing applies to spelling. There are some people that are extremely sensitive about spelling, and then there are others that are like, please make a solid effort to spell things correctly. If it's too out of control, I won't be able to understand it, and I won't be able to write with you. So this is a section that you should put inside your request thread that states what it is you're willing to tolerate and what you're not willing to tolerate. That way, somebody with a lower education or somebody that doesn't use grammar will know this is not the person to write with, right? Again, he goes over ideas, which he mentioned up here as well, okay? And this is just another section where you need to talk about plots and what you're willing to do. Your plot can be as detailed as you want it or as free as you want it. Some people just use experts, right? So like they'll say, she walked into a building and saw this and this happened, and then she heard a voice that said this, and that's it. And that's kind of like a sprint for Nano, right? It's kind of like a word prompt. And they basically just want you to step in and make that make sense. And the story forms from that. There are other people like me who give a pretty detailed description of the concept and the genre that they are looking for. And so there's that version as well, right? Next, do you want like out of role play chat? I think what they're talking about here is OOC or private PMs. Some people are very sensitive to these things. I am one of them. I have a very strict policy. If somebody flirts with me or becomes inappropriate in my PMs, that's it. I end the story. I walk away from it. So that's kind of what they're talking about. I'm very friendly, OOC or out of character or in PMs. So if somebody wants to talk to me, the author, and bounce ideas off me, I'm more than happy to talk to them for hours. But I'm happily married and I'm an old guy, man. I'm not here to, flirt with people and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that just don't want to do OOC at all. All they want to do is write, and they don't want any contact in private messages at all, kept to a very minimum. There are other people that refuse to write a story without that contact, without being able to bounce ideas off of each other. And so you need to write that down and let them know what your willingness is when it comes to private messages and so forth. Next is your willingness to negotiate, develop things, and have a clear understanding of them. I just recently started writing with a new author, and I'll give you an example of what they're talking about here. We had no plot, none. And so we just spoke with each other back and forth consistently. And the plot kind of worked on, what do you want to write about? And that started off with something quite simple, which was, how about a ghost? How about a ghost story? And from there, it just expanded. Ghost house. And then from there, it was, who are these people? Why are they together? What are they doing? And so on. And it just kept growing and growing until a full plot was built, right? When I make a request, my concept is pretty solid, right? I want this. I'm looking for someone to kind of fill this role, but I leave kind of hook points and, character descriptions and so forth open so that the co-author has the freedom to kind of do whatever they want. There are other people, one that I just recently read, that are like, this is my character, this is their incredible background, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not willing to deviate from this, and this is what I want. If you cannot fill this role, I am not the right person to write with. That's some other people. So this is kind of where you need to write down what they're suggesting is kind of put in your plot how willing to negotiate you kind of are, and how much of the story needs to be set in stone and how much can be worked on and expanded on. We'll just skip over groups. That's a whole different discussion. All right. Next, we're going to take a look at a few different examples of a request thread. And with permission, we're going to look at James' request thread. He is the admin here on IS. So we're going to look at his request thread now, which is right here, right? We're not going to read super detailed here, but we kind of want to look at what his formatting is versus some of the other formats that you'll see, because he's pretty unique, right? So the first thing he did was put a disclaimer up there, right? And this is something that you want to remember. You need to make very clear that, you know, if your story is darker or, you know, not intended for this or that, then you need to put disclaimers and so forth there. He goes over the basics of what it is that he's looking for. He goes over the fun stuff that he's looking for. He explains his plots and pairings, and then you'll notice that the thread itself is locked, right? That's because he wants you to private message him, which you can do just by rolling over his name and hitting start a conversation, if you're interested in what he has written here. Now, let's take a look at a different request thread. We'll look at mine so that we're not invading anybody's privacy. And you'll see that there's a difference in format, but the concept and what is written is very much the same, right? So here I kind of give a basic introduction of myself. Then I write down what we talked about, my limits, my expectations, what I'm looking for, and so forth. Then we come down to this section where it's like, I will not do any of these things. I won't write about them. I won't be involved with them. I just don't want anything to do with it. Then we get down into my current ideas, and then we get into my old requests. These are basically stories that I have started to write that that I was looking for someone to write with. So recently I came up with Motel Hell, which is one of the newer stories that I'm writing. But if we look further down on this list, we can look at like Forever Bound, for example. And you can see here that I add a section here that states that the thread is already started at the time that it was posted and that I was looking for someone to fill it, right? Then you get into the link where it is, the idea, which is the concept of what I'm looking for, right? Then the conditions that I'm looking for, like your character has been taken, right? Please be female. Please do not use the undead because it was a type of supernatural story. Don't match what I write, right? Oh my gosh, matching just drives me completely crazy. Seriously, it drives me nuts. No gods or godlike storytelling, and be understanding. And then I go into what this story is going to include, and then I go into what the story will not include, right? And then finally, I gave a little expert about what I hope the story will lead to. So that's kind of how you set up a request thread. If you don't know how to post, check one of the older videos and you'll be able to see that. One of the other things that I want to talk about regarding request threads is tags. So let's go back to my request thread real quick. And we'll explain tags. All right, so tags are a very quick glance of what it is that you're about to look at. And when they're used, you can save yourself a lot of time, because most people that are looking for someone to write with may not want to read all of this information. I mean, this is a lot of information to take in. And this is quite small compared to some of the other ones. People can be pretty direct and they know what they want. Tags help direct that attention, right? My stories can include abuse, adult content, BDSM, descriptive, emotional, and disturbing, extreme violence, gratuitous violence, mental illness, sexual content, and so on. So these tags immediately let somebody know that I am not, right? I'm not a light writer, that my thread is going to be requesting disturbing and dark stuff. And so that's why you should use tags. They're a very quick glance that will stop somebody from reading all of this and then finally getting down to all this and being like, holy cow, I don't even want to write with this guy. But they just read all of this information, so they wasted all that time. Versus a tag, which they can just quickly look at and go, whoa, this guy's way outside my comfort zone. All right? So now that we've got all of that, let's talk a little bit about request and making a request, okay? Because you understand how to make them now. But I mean, let's decide that we want to write, right? And in this situation, let's go back there. And we'll decide that we want to write with James, right? So we start a conversation. And we can put request thread or whatever you feel like typing, right? And then here, you just want to write down a little bit about yourself. Make sure you're not popping off and surprising the co-author. And you also want to include what it is that you want to write about. They may have multiple plots like I did, and you'll want to point out which plot you were interested in. There are a few things here that you'll want to avoid doing, okay? One of the things you want to avoid doing is called cold calling, okay? This is bad. It's bad form. It's bad acting. It's just bad. Just don't do it. What this means is that you're looking over people who's in the forums, right? We'll say like Sapphire here, and you come up and you start a conversation based on their portrait without ever looking at the request thread, and you're just like, hey, I wanna write with you. Are you available to write with? Right? That's called cold calling. It means you did no research and you're just randomly messaging people that you're interested in writing with. This is a bad thing to do. Don't do this, right? Another thing, once you've made a request, don't keep pestering the person that you requested the thread from. Why would you do that? If they answer, great. If they don't, drop it. Move on. Look for somebody else to write with. This is called harassment. Okay, and if somebody is harassing you, okay, you need to inform people. It doesn't matter if it's a herald, it doesn't matter if it's an admin, it doesn't matter if it's a mod, because you're not going to get that person banned, okay? So the fear of, I don't want to report them, they're not mean, they're just pestering me a lot, right? That's not the problem. And they're not going to instantly get banned. What's going to happen is they're going to get a warning, and you're going to cue on to the moderators that there could be a problem here, and this person might be doing this to other writers. And if they don't know that there's a problem, they can't fix it. So you may contact a moderator and say, hey, this guy's been cold calling me. He's writing me about 4 or 5 times a day. I'm not responding. I thought I would let somebody know. That's all you have to do. Does that mean you just got that person banned? No. They may get a private message letting them know that what they're doing is not acceptable, but they're probably not going to get banned unless they've done something seriously out of line. But it would be a warning or something to that nature. Don't do this, right? These authors are trying to write stories and stuff, and this is very distracting. Be respectful and so on. So, but what you've done is you've cued them on to something that may be a problem. Maybe you let them know that this person is a problem, and all of a sudden they check and they notice that he's not just doing this with you, he's doing this with 8 other people. And these messages are getting more and more out of line, right? If you hadn't said anything, they wouldn't know that. So you have the power to stop this kind of abuse. So please let your moderators know. You're not getting the person banned. You're not going to be called out. They're not going to be like, hey, we noticed that you were cold calling Redfren, and, you know, he let us know that this is a problem, so stop doing it, and so on, right? They're not going to do that. They're just going to say, are you aware that this is something that you're not allowed to do? And they're not going to say who reported them, right? So don't think that it's like they're going to call you out and all of a sudden you're going to be on the spot. It's not like that. you also have the power to block the user. So remember that as well, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is rejection. I'm telling you guys, I was rejected like 7 times. So it's nothing new, okay? And some of these rejections hurt a little bit more than some of the other ones, right? But it happens. And so let's talk a little bit about that. The first thing I want to say is, let's say that you do make a request thread and you start getting messages for one of your plots, and you're not interested in writing with that particular person, okay? Nobody wants to feel bad, right? And I kind of think that people fall into 2 categories when they're on the internet, right? I don't know why. It's the same way on Twitch. They're either super nice or they're super freaking mean. And it's like there's no middle ground, right? You're either too nice for your own good or you're way too mean to be considered acceptable. There's just no middle ground, and I don't understand why. But if you get a message and you are not interested in writing with that person, just politely tell them no, right? This saves a lot of confusion. It's the polite thing to do. I know it's hard. I know you don't want to, right? You don't want to be rude. You don't want to be mean, but just say no, right? There's a lot of different ways you can say no. You could just say, I'm sorry, I'm looking for something a little different, or I'm sorry, I don't think we're going to mesh very well together. I wish you the best of luck, you know, and that's it. And then if they start hounding you and sending you messages, you fall back into the harassment category and you report them, because we need to know that there are crazy people like that, right? The forums need to know that there are crazy people like that. So saying no can actually be a good thing. But do say no. Let's say that you make an earnest request to somebody and they don't respond to you at all, right? Like nothing. You send a request, but they don't want to say no. They don't want to make you feel bad, so they just don't respond, okay? You've shown yourself 2 different things here. The first thing you showed is that you're a ghost, okay? Ghosting is a terminology we'll talk about in just a minute, but ghosting is a bad thing. And when you don't respond to somebody, you pretty much ghosted them, okay? That's rude. It's rude. No matter how you look at it, it's rude. This person put time, effort into reading what you wrote down. They put time and effort into writing you and making a request, and you didn't even have the decency to write them back and decline or accept them. Instead, you chose to ignore them. That's rude, man. Don't do it, right? Say no. It's a better choice. Overall, it's just better. Just say, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in writing. I don't think we'll mix well, or whatever you choose to say, but just turn them down. Don't ignore them. It's rude, right? The other category that people fall into is they just accept, right? I'm bad with this one. They just accept when somebody says, hey, do you want to write? And you're just like, man, I don't want to say no, and I guess I can give it a shot, and we'll see how it goes. Don't do that, right? Don't do that. Writing is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. This is co-written stories. And if you're already having doubts about the person you're writing with, then it's not going to go well, right? It's just not. So be honest with yourself. You don't have anybody to impress, and nobody's judging you. They can't see you on the other side of the computer screen. So if you feel like it's not a good mesh, no one can say, oh, look at how they're reacting, right? You know yourself that it's not going to work. Tell them that, right? Don't just accept people and hope it works out for the best, because that's not a good way to go. And don't be a ghost and just not respond. That's just wrong. All right. Let's move on. So we've talked about request threads and so forth. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into site resources, and we're going to talk a little bit about terms, right? So let's see if we can find them. Is it a primer that we were talking about? Yeah, acronyms and terms. Okay, so we're going to go over this a little bit, but not too much detail. But these are basically some terminologies that you may not be familiar with, and you can find them here under Roleplay Primer in the site resources under acronyms and roleplay slang. You've got RP, which means roleplay, RT, which means request thread, PM or DM, which means private message or direct messages. You've got F list, which is a fetish list, typically for people that want to write Harlequin style things, or they just want a very detailed list of limits. Ghosting, which we just talked about. This is taking an unannounced hiatus from the roleplay or just abandoning the story without telling anybody, right? It's ghosting. You basically just ignore the person or vanish or stop responding. This causes the other person not to know what's going on, right? They don't know what's going on. And the same thing is true with the requesting thread. So they don't know if you're going to respond later or if you're just ignoring them. They don't know. And this is referred to as ghosting, and it is frowned on. It is a very rude thing to do. DM, which would be a dungeon master or direct message, depending on the context in which it's used, right? MC, which would be my character or main character, as I tend to refer to it. YC, which would be your character. Muse, A, B, and C. Muses, I mean, it's a muse. It refers to somebody's writing spirit or their desire to continue writing. MXF, FXF, MXM. These are pretty standard stuff. The story is a male protagonist with a female protagonist. The story is a female protagonist with a female protagonist. Male, so on. Next is male A, male or female A, which is the same. Any. Doesn't matter what the protagonist is. Next is OOC. If you hear this term, which you've heard me use already, it means out of character. Which, in another way of saying that is real life, right? I, as an author, am talking to this other author. The next is IC, which is in character, right? So if you were to say something like, that was IC, that would be an indication that was in context of the story. That was through the character's perspective. Non-con usually means assault or non-consensual relations with one another. Smut-based roleplay, they use smut. I don't use that word because it just doesn't work for me. But that's basically just telling people that the story is primarily focused on erotica and is a harlequin, basically. Plot-based roleplay, which is basically saying the same thing, only vice versa, that it's more focused on the plot rather than erotica. And then non-sexual roleplay, which is basically saying that there's no sexual encounters, and if they were there, it would be a fade to black. Fade to black means that the story implies what's happening but doesn't show what's happening. So you see this a lot in movies, and you see this a lot in television and in books even. Basically, the two characters embrace one another, they kiss, they fall onto the bed, and then it fades away, and you don't see that again until morning, right? That's referred to as a fade to black, a scene where it is fading to black, right? This can be done with everything, not just erotica. It can be done with murder. It can be done with violence. It can be done with all kinds of stuff, right? Guy grabs a knife, lifts it up like this, gets ready to stab it down in some dude's eye, and all of a sudden it fades away, and you're writing about something else. That means that you've assumed that he's gone ahead and done that, and since there was nothing else there, it's a faded scene. Next is a fandom. I don't write fandoms, and this was a terminology I wasn't familiar with. But basically what it means is that you're writing based on something you have seen. I'll give you an example of a fandom that is probably more realistic than some of the other ones that you might be thinking of. Supernatural. Dean and, what was his other name? What was his name? Dean and Sam? Dean and Sam from Supernatural. That's a fandom, right? As soon as you bring up that I want to write a story about the world of Supernatural, where the characters Dean and Sam were in it, you're playing in a fandom, okay? So that's what a fandom is. And this can go every direction, right? Anime, I want to write in the world of Dragon Ball, or I want to write in the world of Naruto. That's fandoms. All right, the next is a canon character, or a CC. Canon character is playing Dean or playing Sam and rewriting the original fandom or the original story that was there. You are Dean and you are writing to kind of continue the adventures after the show ended, right? Or during the show, or whatever you want to do there. CC is a canon character. So you're playing Naruto, you're playing Sam, you're playing Dean. That's what that means. Original character, or OC, is an original character. It basically means that you are playing your own character. There's no reference to another character. So in this sense, it's just a protagonist, right? And you can use a original character or a protagonist in anything, whether it's a fandom or it's not. You can say, you know, I want to play in the world of Supernatural, but I want to play my original character or my OC or my protagonist who is not part of that universe. And I want that person to step into that fandom and start seeking out these things. And that is the general terminologies and acronyms of Inner Sanctum. So, raw, we have done it. We have successfully shown how to post, how to edit, how to create an account, how to do requests, how to make a request, what makes a good request. We've done so much for Inner Sanctum, and I really hope that you guys join us and come and see what this is all about. There's tons and tons of people in the community. It's extremely active, and they are always accepting new members. If you go to my About page and you're on Twitch, you can find a link right there. If not, you can go to writersanctum.com and join the site directly from there. I hope to see you guys soon, and I hope that if you enjoy writing, that you do so. There's sure a lot more stuff that we could discuss, a lot, right? And we could get into that, but we're not going to. So let's move on. The next thing we are going to talk about is Nano. Let's bring it up. Nano. All right. So let's sign in. Yep, there it is. I finished my word count. I finished my Nano project. 53,147 words in a month. Super excited about that. I'm very happy that it was able to be done. And we're going to go over some of what happened and what my overall experience was with this writing group, right? So let's start with that. The progress of my book was slow. I fell behind. I struggled to maintain concentration. I was really distracted by writing all these other stories and also doing my streaming. And it was really difficult for me to write. So I would go 2 or 3 days without writing, and then I would sit down for several hours and just pound out a whole bunch rather than write 1,667 words a day. I just pounded out a ton all at once, right? That's why I don't have my 7 days in a row, my 14 days in a row, or my 21 days in a row, because I didn't do it in a row. I just wrote a bunch, then I would take a couple of days to myself, and then I would write a bunch again. My experience so far with Nano is a mixed bag of nuts, for sure. So they have a community in a forums, which is very informative, but as I stated before in my prior video, it's very niche, right? There are all walks of life on those forums, and how you interact with people is not the same as, say, Inner Sanctum. People are just not, they're not super friendly that I saw. It was very hard to find a group. It was very hard to find people that were interested in what I was writing and that wanted to talk about writing. And while the resources were there, there was just not a strong community of people that were like, hey, you can do it and stuff like that. Now, that doesn't mean groups. That I'm talking about the NaNoWriMo forums directly. I'm not talking about groups. So let's talk a little bit about groups and the differences, right? Group-wise, I joined two. I joined a romance group, and I joined my local group here in Milwaukee. My romance group didn't do too much, so it really wasn't the group for me. They didn't talk too much. They didn't do any activities. They didn't really help with one another. It was kind of a meet and greet sort of thing, and that was the end of it. There was somebody that kept trying to communicate with others, but overall the group just wasn't a good experience. Then there is the Milwaukee group. Absolutely phenomenal. These guys were awesome. They always have activities going on. They always have live chats, YouTubes, and other stuff going on. They have inspirational sections. They have sections where you can talk about your story. For example, I ran into a problem where I couldn't keep the flow of my story moving forward. And as a result, I didn't know what to do. Did I need more fluff? Did I need more drama? How do I do another erotic scene? I mean, the story is a horrific and romance, and I don't want too much of either or the story will focus on that, and that wasn't the intention. So after about a day of trying to figure out what would work, I jumped onto the Discord group and I jumped into their inspiration section and I told them I'm having a problem with this. Now, I tried to do it by voice chat because I find chatting by voice is a lot easier in expressing what it is you're trying to say, and you can get a lot more out than if you type it, right? I could have explained a fairly detailed plot and explained my problem in less time than it took me to type out what I needed to do in order to explain what the problem I was having was. But nobody was very interested in voice chatting, which is fine. It's just a shame they wouldn't listen to me do it. I talk to myself plenty, so it would have worked just fine. Next, I wrote down what I wanted, and a few of these members spent quite a bit of time talking with me about it. They explained to me the flow and the pacing of books and what would work and what wouldn't work, and really helped me come up with some additional ideas. Maybe you can use this time, instead of filling it with fluff, to increase the knowledge of a character, for example. Why is my character so OCD about cleaning? Maybe you can touch base on that. It's a filler, but it's a deep filler, and it provides some depth to your character that would otherwise not be there. This was exactly what I needed. This was the knowledge that I needed to receive, and this got me inspired enough to start writing again. So I couldn't have done it without that group. I really couldn't have. I was at a loss for what to write, and I was tired, and I just couldn't think straight, and I knew that if I went the wrong direction, I wouldn't like the story at all, and I would probably end up scrapping it. So they really saved me in that respect, and I'm very grateful. They're a very good group, and if you do join NaNoWriMo next year, the National Novel Writing Month, I would recommend strongly that you find your local writing group. Every place that Nano is has one, and so definitely seek out your group and join it, because it is a priceless experience. All right, let's talk about what happened when I won. Like, what did I get? What was the merits to all of this? So let's do that. Let's talk about that. If I come up here and I click on this, congratulations, you've unlocked this badge 10 hours ago. It shows you the form that you got, right? which is this, and it can be printed out and saved. It's got, this is not the right form, but it is the form, but it's not filled out. It's got your name here. It's got your author, your book that you wrote here, and it's got the date you finished here. This is just kind of a blank document of what it is that you receive. You get your badge, of course, and you get a reef down here at the bottom of your name. So these are the immediate goodies that you get. But then when you claim your winnings, the first thing you get is a short video from a bunch of authors that are congratulating you and going over some quotes and stuff that they use to inspire themselves and others. And it's very cute. I believe the video itself is private. I don't think it's publicly posted, but I don't know. But you get this video of them publicly talking to you and saying congratulations and so forth. You get your banner. You get access to some new merchandise. And if you look at the merchandise, it's kind of like a winner shirt and some coffee mugs and stuff like this. All of this goes to a nonprofit, and they don't keep it themselves. So you get access to that. But what else do you really get? I mean, come on, this can't be it, right? It's not. The next big thing that you get, and the biggest thing that I needed, is this. When you claim your next set of goodies, you get these, okay? And this is massive. You get all kinds of discounts from all different kinds of editing programs, publishers, just all kinds of stuff. Editors, writing tablets, all kinds. And if you go down, you can see you've got another one here from Dabble, from Campfire, from Hermit, from Word Anvil, which is freaking fantastic. Novaire, Kindle Publishing, Pro Writing Aid, Novel Pads. All of these are just huge discounts that you get for winning the competition, and you do not have access to them if you did not win. And that's what I was most excited about, and that is what I intend to use as I continue writing and take my journey to the next level for my books and so forth. All right. Now that we are done with that, let's talk about the future of what I'm doing and kind of what's going to happen, since we're getting to the near end of this stream now. So the first thing I want to say is that I am not a variety streamer. I like doing these chats with you. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff with you, but I am not a variety streamer. I will never be a variety streamer. Let me show you quickly my dashboard, right? And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So if we go to Streamlabs, I have some merchandise in the store. Now, I explained to you guys before that I'm not receiving profit on that merchandise. I just thought it was cool. It was free. It was something that they offered me, so I decided to do it. But to prove this point, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. If you click on your store, you can see here the price of everything that I have listed. Now, I will have some more merchandise coming soon as I get a logo and I start getting better banners and stuff like that. This was just something I threw together really quickly. Coffee mugs, of course, because coffee is life. Drink it. And I left $1 profit on this one cup so that you could see that it was happening, right? And then next to the other cups and the shirts and the stuff, you see there is no profit. I'm not making anything from them. And if we go into the editing of one of these, right? If we edit into this and we go to the next section, you can see this profit right here, right? And this bar allows me to drag it up or down depending on where I want it to, how much money I want to make on that cup. All of my stuff is dragged down to 0, right? You click that to confirm it, and you click OK. Why is it dragged down to 0? Because I would like to buy this stuff myself, and I'm not trying to profit off you guys. This is the same reason that I have not accepted the association with Twitch. I enjoy streaming on YouTube, and I enjoy streaming on Twitch. I like it. It's fun. And I would like to build a fan base before I start trying to profit off of anything. The last thing I want is my streams to be restricted so I can no longer stream on multiple platforms. I also don't want anybody who decides to watch me to have to suffer through 9 freaking commercials, right? And this brings up a very good point. I watch a lot of stream fails, right? And some of the big names are on there, XQC, Mizkiff, stuff like that. And I saw something that just blew my mind the other day with Mizkiff. He's a little different, but he's fun to watch. He's a variety streamer. I'll never be a variety streamer. I'll be a gaming streamer, and I'm way too chill and relaxed to be a variety streamer anyways. Leave it to the guys that know what the hell they're doing. Nobody wants to watch an old guy act like a damn idiot. But Mizkiff said that to one of his fans, let me actually see if we can find that video. It just blew my mind, man. It blew my freaking mind. Seriously. I was just completely and utterly blown away by what I saw. It just, I couldn't believe it. Basically, somebody didn't have the money to sub to Mizkiff, and he basically told them to go fuck off. Seriously. I was like, what? And he gets into details about it too. He's just like, you know, you're a if you can't afford to sub to me, just fuck off. I don't even need to deal with you or anything. And I was like, what? Right? It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. It just kind of blew my mind, right? Because, like, are you really so ahead of yourself that you're going to act like a McDonald's employee and not give a shit about future people that might be able to subscribe to you? Is that where you are? That's where you're at, right? Because that's crazy, right? When you have a fan that is watching you and they don't have the money to subscribe, you're providing entertainment. If the entertainment's good enough, maybe when they get their allowance or they get their paycheck, they're going to subscribe at that time. So if they don't have the money to do so, and you're telling them, well, if you can't afford this, fuck off and get out of here. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Have you completely forgotten about what you're doing? I mean, where were you 9 years ago that you can talk to people like this and think it's okay? You wouldn't take it if somebody talked to you like that at McDonald's. I mean, Twitch is fickle. I'm never going to be a big streamer. I know this. I would be very happy if in a year I had 50 viewers at the most, right? So I'm not competing on that kind of a level, but damn, dude, to just tell someone to fuck off. I mean, sure, Hassan bans people all the time, but Mez has always been kind of nice and yeah, he's a little weird, but he's kind of a cool guy. And it blew my mind to see him do this. So let me see if I can find it, because it was just like, wow, man, what the hell? This might be it. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Emily just texted me, actually.
No, this isn't it. Yeah, that's not it. We'll try one more. I have one more that I watch. We'll try this one and see if it's here. Because I don't want to be like talking out of my ass. I want you guys to see what I'm talking about, but damn, dude. Let's see. It starts off with one guy saying, if you don't have enough, I think this is it, actually. If you don't have enough, I'll buy you a subscription. And then the next guy, which is Miz, basically tells another person to go fuck themselves when they can't afford to pay for the subscription. Dang it. I guess I can't find it. I could look on stream fails, but we'll just screw it. It's my opinion. So as I said, I'm not a big streamer. I don't know the stress and stuff that people go over, but if I ever get to that point, I certainly hope people stop watching me, because this is about entertainment. It's about having fun. And what you guys do when you offer something, somebody tried to offer me bits the other day. As I said, I'm not an associate. I'm not trying to make money. I'm just trying to make a fan base and have a good time. But it was very cool of them to do so. Twitch and YouTube and stuff like that, these are donations. This is not a set income. These people are gifting you money because you are entertaining them. And when you have lost focus of that and no longer care about the audience that you're entertaining, that's a problem. Hassan bans a lot of people, but he usually has a pretty solid reason to do so. And even though that reason might be a little skewed, he's well known for this. If you trash talk Hassan, you're probably going to get banned. Ms. Kiv is not this way, so it was very shocking for me to see that he did something like that, and it was not a cool thing to see him do. I think that entertainers need to remember that these are tips. This is money that they could have spent elsewhere. And while you may not be getting all of it, and Twitch is getting some of it, their intention was not to tip Twitch, but to tip you for your entertainment value. And if you're telling people that can't afford to do that to fuck off, then you're losing potential future customers, and you're losing your mind. I mean, you might as well go to McDonald's and try to complain that you're creating the same environment. All right, enough about that. Deals. Let's see, we talked about that. And the Sunday post, this Twitch and just chatting, it's done. I'm done with this. I'm not good at sharing my opinion. I'm not good at expressing myself, and I'm not good at just chatting. I've had topics to discuss, and I've had things to go over, and I've enjoyed it. But I'm a gamer. I stream to enjoy a game, to receive feedback, and for others to watch and have fun while I play the game. I'm never going to be a variety streamer. I'm not trying to be super big, and these just chattings are just not going to work for me. So no more streaming on Sunday. I'll be streaming on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday like normal. Eventually, my schedule is going to change, and I'm going to start streaming at night rather than in the day, because there's a larger audience there. But for now, I enjoy streaming during the day. I'm very strict at keeping my schedule. I don't stream on Tuesdays because I typically do appointments and stuff like that when I have a dental appointment coming up this Tuesday. And the reason I don't stream on weekends is because I'm married. I have a life, and I need to spend time with my wife, and I like to write, and I usually spend a lot of time writing on the weekend. So that's why my schedule is set up the way it is. That's kind of everything, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have learned something. I hope you join Inner Sanctum. I hope that you enjoyed the progress of NaNoWriMo, and thank you for being on this journey with me. It was fun. It was challenging, but it was fun, and the story turned out all right. If you're interested in knowing more about the story, how it happened, what happened, You have to read it. I'm sorry. I'll maybe be releasing it as a novella, or I'll finish writing it out and it'll be a full novel. But for now, you'll just have to wait and see what happens. It's pretty crazy though. If you want to know about the first couple of chapters, though, by all means, jump back to the first video and hear how the first chapter or two worked out. But the rest of it, nope. You're gonna have to find out for yourselves. I hope you guys had fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being on this journey with me, and I will see you on Monday. Take care, everybody, and bye. Let me pull this up. Bye, everyone.